Happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day, Jenny White. And everybody else, happy Valentine's Day.
Yeah, we were just
America.
talking about Valentine's Day before we came on here, weren't we?
Yeah, we sure were.
Mm-hmm.
Poor
So,
Lauren.
do what?
Poor Lauren.
So you didn't get anything for your sweet wife? You didn't?
Yeah,
Don't
I bought her
tell
a
me
Range
this.
Rover. That should be good enough.
That's just supposed to last for every gift for everything right now.
I mean, how much more stuff you need?
I guess that's absolutely true. What was I thinking?
I just assume if I buy her that, it's got carryover value. So that just goes.
Value.
Yeah. Her birthday was in December. Then our anniversary was in January. We got Valentine's Day here.
So it's not trade-in value, it's carryover value.
Yeah, that should have some carryover value.
You're kind of full of it, I think, a little bit.
No, she's well taken care of. She'll be all right.
And I do notice that you have on your red Valentine's Day shirt.
That's right. Playing ahead. Uh-oh. Am I frozen? Are you frozen? I don't know who's in or out.
Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
There?
Your video's frozen.
Ugh.
Is that me or you?
Are we there? Are we on? Oh no. What's going on? Are you there?
I'm here.
So did I freeze? I don't know what my internet looks like. It's wonky suddenly.
I can't tell. I can't tell who's on. If someone's on, make a comment who they can actually see and hear.
Well, I think we're on live.
Well, no, I'm asking any of the viewers to make a comment. Am I frozen or are you frozen?
No, I don't think either one of us are now, but I think
you're frozen on my side.
Really?
Yeah.
Robert says hi.
So is the title screen.
The title screen is frozen too?
On my side, that's what I'm seeing. Maybe my stuff is frozen.
Okay, so Robert, who's frozen here? It may be me because I'm looking at my internet and my internet is saying you stink.
Yeah, Robert just said Jenny's frozen. He can hear us, but he says you're frozen.
Okay, well, this is good. So here's what I'm going to do, I guess, because it's telling me that I have low disk space. I don't know what is happening with this thing. It's very weird.
Yeah, it's a new feature on that. We'll after the show, we'll look at your settings.
Okay, that sounds like a plan. Let me try and turn off. Let me turn off my Nord, and we'll see if we can get this. Maybe that'll help.
Yeah, that's pretty odd. It's some new change the streaming service made. I don't know what it is.
So you know about it.
Well, I'll show you after we're over. after we're done. So we'll see.
Okay, so I turned off my.
Yeah, that's good. You're back. I think you're back live now.
Okay, well, we'll see if that'll work. I'm not sure because it's still saying, but we're going to go ahead. We're going to move on. We're going to soldier on, see how things are going to go. It's always something, isn't it?
Yeah. Well,
It's
I'm
never
excited.
nothing.
I'm excited to have Robert on here. I mean,
I am too.
are we going to kind of, in your opinion, Jenny, I mean, does Robert's, what happened with Robert and the whole election board and all the behind the closed door stuff? I mean, is that kind of the start or the epitome of like Oklahoma deep state?
I'm going to say yes on that. I mean, I think that we have a deep state in Oklahoma, and it's characters that have been in Oklahoma politics for a very, very long time and running things from behind the scenes, and people don't see them. So they don't really think that this is going on. Plus, we're in a red state, that can never happen here.
It's still it bothers me to no end. The first time we had Robert on to put him, for whoever it was, I can't remember, but to have him go to the court that was not a public court, that wasn't listed. The case wasn't done. It wasn't public on OSCN. I mean, that just bothered me to no end.
Yeah, let's bring him on because he's waiting. Let's bring him on and talk to him about that part again, because I definitely think so. Robert, good morning. Happy Valentine's Day to you.
Good morning. Good morning. My wife's already up and running. She got up before the chickens and she's off on her mission. So, but I always do some little surprise for her along the way. And so she'll have her surprise. This May we'll be married 46 years. And so I don't want to step in it and get it wrong. So.
Where's she going to go after 46 years, Robert?
Well,
you may have a past there.
Well, but it's not where she's going to go. It's just, really, it's kind of funny because she had been married before, and she was a high school, got married in high school, and so every time we get together, I always remind her I'm the only one who got it right the first time. So.
Oh, that's not well. Hey, yeah. I have one of those too.
What's that?
So, I was married before when I was very young, and we've been married. 30-something years. I don't know now.
Well, it's been 46 this May. So.
Yeah, that's awesome, Robert.
I'll do it again with the same little girl. So.
That's great. Yeah. And that's all we really want to hear on Valentine's Day, actually.
Well, that's good.
I'd do it all again, honey. So there you go. That's what you need to tell Lauren, Michael.
All right, I'll do it.
That'll work. I'll bet you money. Well, Robert, so let's talk about that. So what Michael was saying, kind of give for the people that are on this morning that might not know kind of what happened with your case. Give us kind of the background on that.
Well, as you know, I ran for Senate District 15, and I jumped in the race with all the craziness going on. We see some wild things across the board on local elections. I mean, just here in Norman this past week, a crazy flip on everything. Trying to bring some stability and get rid of the radical craziness going on. What I learned along the way was a whole nother ball game of an undercurrent and control that takes place in this election cycle. And so we ran a clean race. Everything was good. I lost by 51 votes, and people were wanting me to challenge the election and get a recount. And I'm like, why do that? It's a waste of time. Nobody wins that. So ultimately, 2 days later, a member of the actual county election board precinct chair reached out to me, and she had been going through the election data warehouse information and found several anomalies, and particularly in the nursing home absentee ballots and the nursing home incapacitated. And,
Okay.
and so she brought that to my attention and sent it to me. And there were several things. You know, first of all, there were 51 more people who voted in the election than was recorded, and it happened to be the exact number I lost by. And then there were these problems with absentee ballots in nursing homes that were discovered. So I went to the election board on the county level, went to file. What she said was, you know, don't waste your time with the recount. Go for a petition for irregularities. So I did that, and when I went into the county, they were pretty much stunned. They had never done one, had no idea how to do it. But they said I had to pay a cashier's check. So I run to the bank to get the cashier's check. While I'm there, they call me and say, we can't do that. You have to go to the state. So the state, I reach out, they give me a form, and I personally fill it out, haul it to the state. And at the state, I explained to them I did not want a petition. I did not want a recount without the petition. The state election board attorney goes to give me the one document back for the recount, and the secretary says, no, we'll just do both, knowing that I did not want the recount without the other. So the day clicks on, this is on a Thursday, and they call me up and say, hey, we got you ready, come get it. Well, my office is up at 4100 North Lincoln, just a mile or so from the Capitol. I buzz down there and I get it, and I discover that he pulled the trigger on the recount. So the clock is now ticking, and denied the application for the petition.
Oh, wait. Now, I don't remember this part from the last story.
Yeah.
So he
Well,
denied your application for irregularities,
yes.
but went ahead and took your money because it's a huge chunk. Tell people how much you had to pay for a recount.
Oh, I don't even remember what that was. It was $1,500, something like that. Okay.
Yeah. It's not a small sum.
Right. But ultimately, what happened is, I told him right then, I said, why did you do that? We talked about this. He said, well, I do this for anybody. And I said, you threw me under the bus. And I didn't get irate or anything, but he knew that I wasn't happy. And so now I had 24 hours to get a petition, or the clock was over with. He purposely did that. And so I called my attorney out of Dallas, national firm, Steptoe Johnson. I said, man, I need somebody right now. So he got somebody on the phone that night, a middle level attorney that began researching. And by the morning, he discovered that, first of all, state statute does not authorize the election board to withhold somebody getting a petition. First of all, a candidate in any race, from my understanding, is a candidate can request it and does not have to prove that they have justification for it. Where the state was saying, no, you got to prove. And so we had proven that the Standard's campaign treasurer, who by state law cannot notarize anything, had notarized. We had a document that they sent out saying, hey, I'll come out and notarize your ballot. So we had proof. But by statute, according to my legal firm, we didn't. I pulled the trigger. So we ended up, the weekend came, it was a holiday weekend, and we weren't allowed to look at anything from the election board until that following Tuesday, and we had to be in court at 7 a.m. on Thursday. So we only had 48 hours to prepare, and they would only give us the documents of where we knew there was a problem. They wouldn't let us look. They said, no, you're not allowed to have a fishing expedition. And so the other 900 something ballots were not even discussed at this time because they wouldn't let us. So my people, my team worked around the clock. And when we went into court, we had what we could verify 41 irregularities. We needed 51 to overturn the election. But because the way the Oklahoma State Election Board rules are, one, they do not record any of that information that takes place in the courtroom. Okay. So therefore, if you do not prevail, it just goes away as if it's never happened. You can't look it up on OSCN. It's nowhere recorded. It's somewhere in their little dark vault back in the corner. And so we didn't have enough to turn the election. So I decided and made the decision that let's let them certify the election, but in return, we get the judge to rule on the crimes, rule on 3 points of law on that. And they agreed to that. And fortunately, my legal team, because what happened the day before in the recount and that battle going on there were threats by the legal team with my attorney that they would try to get him disbarred for frivolous lawsuit, that this was a frivolous lawsuit. And,
Wait 1 second. So
yeah,
the people at the state election board?
no, the attorney or the standard, the legal team.
Oh, the legal team for the Standridges was bullying your attorney.
They were threatening to do what happened to some of Trump's lawyers on his legal team when they challenged the election. Okay. And so
Wow.
that triggered another level. And that's when we brought Gideon in, who was a high-level attorney and has a high level on election crimes. Gideon came in and he made sure that as we went before the judge on that final decision, that there was a court reporter in the room, and that we paid for a court reporter, and it was recorded when the discussion and the agreement that took place with the judge present, with Cleveland County Election Board, the state election board, and the Standridges legal team were all in the room, and it was all agreed, and it was recorded. And so this was on a Friday. Monday, the county election board certifies the election. The following day, the state and county all say, no, that's not what we agreed to. And so the judge then ruled contrary to what we agreed to. And so we went back to court and he still wouldn't rule. And that's what, and the whole plan was to get it to the Supreme Court, because that was the only way to get it public. And every step of the way, they kept throwing more stuff in that just is exposing them more and more that there's a bigger problem out here than just this single election. And so that when we got to the Supreme Court, that was a win for us just to file it. I'm sure you've got a copy of that.
Yep, hold on 1 second. I can show it. Give me just 1 second to figure out where it went on the many things that I have open right now.
It's kind of funny.
Okay, I found it. Hold on. It'll take me a second to get it pulled up here, but I have it and I can do it. All right. So I need to share the PDF. Where is it? Is that it? No. There it is. Okay, I found it. Yeah, it's not the easiest thing to do. Oops, no, that's the wrong one. I need to share this window. Okay. Keep talking while I'm figuring out how to share it. I'll make it work.
You got it.
I'm tenacious.
Well, ultimately, it's just funny how from the Standridge camp, there was all this circulation that I filed lawsuits against these little old ladies, trying to put these little old ladies in prison. But if you read that, go to the top of that. Who are the defendants in this case? Okay, it says
not little old ladies.
Yeah, so the Oklahoma State Election Board, the Cleveland County Election Board, and the Honorable Jeff Virgin, District Court of Cleveland County. There's no little old ladies. They twisted the dialogue purposely to take it off of me, saying these little old ladies were innocent. And guess what? I do think they were. I think that the people who had them go do it,
Right.
and particularly if you've been a 12-year standing senator and you got a law degree, if you don't know the basics of that, then what are you running for office for? And why are you pushing somebody else to run for office under you? And so this was not about two little old ladies. In fact, I made a promise to one of those little old ladies that I would run a clean race and not put up with anybody trashing their daughter or anything like that. And I did that. They can't say they did that.
Yeah. Well, let me point out something here while we're on this piece of paper. I got to see what it says right there. Okay. So does anybody see who the judge is? Okay. The judge is Jeff Virgin. Does anybody know who Jeff Virgin is?
I do. Yeah. He's the one judge here a couple months ago who did the birth certificate change for a boy to a girl. Okay. Which is a violation of state law.
Well, and I'm going to continue and point out that Jeff Virgin is Emily Virgin's dad. And Emily Virgin was one of our most liberal Democratic. Was she a rep or a senator? Which one? I don't know why I can't think of it right now. She's no longer in the legislature. Right. But that whole group of people have been very, very, as you well know from living there, they're very prominent citizens in that. Yes. In Cleveland County. Yes. And they're not.
She was in the House.
Yes. She's not, and they not really probably would not ever be on our side for any. They're very liberal people.
You bet. You bet.
So that's very interesting that you drew this judge. That's to me kind of interesting. So how did he rule in this suit?
He wouldn't. Because we agreed in court to let them certify the election. In return, he would rule on 3 points of law of whether the ballot harvesting was a crime, rule on why there's such a gap within the election board data warehouse. That there is 51 more people voted than are being recorded, and I lost by 51. And so there were 3 different points that he agreed to. He agreed to in court, and everybody else did. But after we certified the election, all that flipped, and everybody said that's not what we agreed to, and so.
So I'm just curious. You had the court reporting documents that
we still do.
Paid a good chunk for.
Yes,
so how is it that he couldn't have looked at those documents and said, well, you got us here. I mean, it's written down. This is what the court reporter said.
My legal team's asking the same question. But flip side is we had already read the writing on the wall and knew that probably was going to happen. Okay? Just because of what you've already identified there, we anticipated that, and so in this case, for the public, it was the best thing for Virgin not to do that, because if he would have done that, then all of this would have been swept away.
Oh, I see your point.
Because the district attorney 2 weeks after we get to the Supreme Court resigns. Okay.
And who is the district attorney again?
Greg Mashburn.
Okay. Greg Mashburn.
But if he would have ruled, and this went to the district attorney's office, nobody has any ability to make it come public. Nobody has any ability to force the district attorney to do his job. This was just to get it pushed over there. Is all we wanted to do was try to somehow get it pushed over there. and try to force them. But we had no teeth to get that done. But now the win is that you know about it because you got the documents, where this was a hidden missile, and these hidden missiles go on all the time in the election world because they don't have to follow the rest of the world's rules here in Oklahoma when it comes to the judicial system.
But how can that be?
Well, the people who wrote the laws are the one who made this happen. This isn't something that they're using the legal system to pave it the way they want it. This is how the bureaucrats in the end are deciding close elections. And when I say close elections, this could be anywhere an election by 100 votes or more. Okay, I'm not saying the one or two, because obviously the one or two are easy to see how it's in the bureaucrat. But if you can have 51 more people vote an election and you not be held accountable, where they at, where's their vote, and you can't show that, then that means a bureaucrat's making that decision. When the state says this is what makes a legal ballot, and you have ballots come in, and you do not kick those ballots out that do not comply, then that's a bureaucrat making that decision. The bureaucrat actually told me that we do not believe that the good intention of a voter should be negated by the bad intention or a misunderstanding of a notary or somebody else. But yet the state law says, and they even send out a form, that if you choose to vote absentee, I have one here on my desk, I will read the document to you. If you choose to vote absentee, you have to follow these steps. Okay, and if you don't, it negates your ballot. And so I've voted absentee for more than 20 years, and I make sure I cross those T's and dot those I's to get this right, because I don't want my vote kicked out. And so for the election board to say, well, we're not going to do that, that's how we end up having ballot harvesting. Ultimately, if the speed limit's 70 miles an hour and nobody's going to enforce the law, why not just drive 100?
I think, honestly, I'm kind of speechless, which is weird for, as you both know, because I'm so frustrated, because your story is 50,000 stories. I mean, probably here,
it's everybody's story that run for politics.
It's the law isn't being followed. These people literally just look at the law and then go, well, but it doesn't apply to you. Now it'll apply to you, but I don't think it applies to you.
Yeah.
Because if it was flipped over into another way, this could have come out differently, because it's not about the law, it's about ideology. Yes. And when do you have justice if it's about ideology and not about the law? I mean, yeah. I'm so frustrated by your whole story, Robert, that it just gets to the point where I can't even be cogent with my words, because what do you do? So, and then let me go back and just make sure we understand this. So, and I should have brought up the law. That's my fault. I know where it is and I can go do it, but it'll take me a few minutes. The law basically says that I know where the law is, don't we?
Oh,
we know
absolutely.
Where the law is. Hang on. I'm going to bring it up.
Yeah.
Let me pull it up. Okay. I wish I were faster at this. It doesn't work for me quite the way I would like it to. I think, I know where I'm going, and then I try to do it. Okay. So here is the law, and I'll make it bigger here in just a second. But the point I want to make is this.
This is a bill they're doing to change the law.
But we get to read the law, though.
Yes, that's correct.
Right? Yeah. Okay, so this is Senate Bill 654 by Lonnie Paxton. And this bill is attempting to change the law that we're talking about right now. So let's go down. And this is actually a pretty good lesson. So those of you who are watching this morning who don't know how to read a bill, let me explain this to you as we go along. So this bill is an amendment. See, it says amending 26, Title 26 OS 2021, Section 14-101.1. So it's not new law, or it would have said new law. So it's amending an existing law. So when it's amending an existing law, what we're looking for is any place that might be scratched out in the law with something. Oh, look, there's some scratch out here. So what they're attempting to do with this law is take these parts out of the law. So let's read the parts of the law they're attempting to take out. Number 6, partially or fully completing an application for an absentee ballot on behalf of another person without that person's prior consent. So basically they're saying, anybody who wants to fill out an absentee ballot for somebody else, that's fine. You don't even have to have their permission. You can just go ahead and do it. Yeah. Right? Okay. So the number 7 is notarizing or witnessing more absentee ballots than allowed by law. In the law currently, I believe it says 21. Whoever's watching is maybe 22. One notary is only allowed to notarize. Is it 22?
20.
20. Thank you. One notary is only allowed to notarize 20 absentee ballots. Now, let me tell you a story, and I don't know that I've told you this story even or not, Robert. So when I was sitting as the assistant to the election board. So when I was on the election board, the county election board, and they were counting absentee ballots. So there's a law that says one notary can only can only notarize 20 absentee ballots. We never stopped to put them in piles and say, oh, June Smith, here, she's a notary. Let's line those up. Here, Fred Andrews, let's line these up, right? We never even followed the law. And I made the point about that in one of the things that I wrote. We have this law in the books, but hey, we're not following the law. So how do we know that there isn't a notary notarizing more than 20 if you're not counting the notary?
Well, let me add to it. The law also states anybody on your campaign, registered on your campaign, cannot notarize any ballots. 0 ballots. 0. Anybody in your immediate family up to 3 generations cannot notarize any ballot. 0. And that's where this got off track. This part of it. There's a bunch more off track, but in this part, as you read right there, in this is an admission to their own guilt and saying, but let's change the law to where it's no longer a crime.
I'm going to make that a little bigger.
Well, and in your race, Robert, how many were notarized? Do you know the exact number that were notarized by the treasurer of
the treasurer only? Because we discovered that they had to submit that to us in that petition of irregularities, and that was 15. Okay, the rest of the ballots we have no idea, but it's later come to fruition that there were more ballots than that, and so we've not had access to that.
Wow. And what were those 15? Were those from that nursing home specifically?
I really, we haven't connected exactly who they were in that aspect. We just know that there were 15. We actually have copies. If you go to OSCN, you'll see in everything that was filed with the Supreme Court is copies of those notaries.
Well, I was going to even ask you because they were telling you that you couldn't go on a fishing expedition and you
Yes.
couldn't have your attorneys couldn't have access to this information. So I was wondering how in the world you were even going to get that.
Yeah.
They gave us what we told them we knew and could prove that we knew. Okay. When we discovered based their outdoor knocking, there was a flyer put on a house, taped on a house mailbox or door or something, that their campaign treasurer said, you know, vote for this candidate and I'll come out and notarize. So we knew that they were going out door to door notarizing. But when the county precinct chair discovered the nursing home anomalies, that threw the trigger the other way. And so, I mean, you know, at the end of the day, we have we had a standing senator who had been there 12 years, who had a law degree. Whether or not their staff understood the law, you're to write the law. Therefore, you should know the law of what you're doing. I know this. I paid up front with my law firm to know what we could and couldn't do, and we knew we couldn't do that. And I've never served, nor do I have a law degree, nor do I have a college degree. But this redneck cowboy knew that was a no-no, and we're not going to do that, and we're not going to allow someone to do that. And therefore, I would think if you're going to run for office and make law, you ought to know the law of what governs what you do. Lost
You're
your
on mute,
voice.
Jenny. Jenny, you're on mute. She's doing something.
Sorry, the dogs were barking, and so I put mute on so we didn't get distracted by my dopey dogs. Okay, so I'm going to go back to this. I want to point out something. Would notice who the bill is by. This bill to change all of the things that caused the problems in Robert's election that were illegal. And like Robert said, this bill is basically an admission of guilt. Well, we did it, so let's get it out of law. I mean, I'm sorry. That's certainly the way it sounds like to me. So this was written by Lonnie Paxton. All right. So I want to point out something else. And I want to go over here and I want to point out this. I'm trying to find where, give me a second. All right. Here's probably where I need to be is this one. All right, I think it's this one that we need to look at. So let's look at this one. Again, I have so many on my screen, it's hard to figure it out. All right, this is Senate Bill 654, like we just talked about. So here's what it says. I can see if I can make it larger. Let me see so everybody can see. All right, so if you can see, it says right here, pending Senate Judiciary Committee. All right. So when you go down to the bottom, it says, here's where it's gone. Here's the history. It was authored by Senator Paxton. Here's the first reading, which is stupid. Anyway, there's the second reading referred to judiciary. All right. So here is what it says. It's pending a hearing, this bill, in the Senate Judiciary Committee. So I was just interested. And I went over and I thought you guys might like to see who the Senate Judiciary is. So this is Brent Howard and Todd Gallagher are the chair and vice chair of the committee. And then here are the members of this committee. Now I'm going to make, before we go on, let me make one other point. Okay. So before we go on, let me make one other point. Here is.
Jenny, do we need to say that Lisa's on that since if someone doesn't have video and they didn't see that specifically?
Okay, I'm sorry. Lisa Standridge is on the Judiciary Committee. So let me just say it out loud. I just thought
her husband's lawyer, not her.
Yeah. So I just thought it would be
Who's
interesting.
running Senate District 15 here?
Okay, so let me show you something else even. And this has got, oh, I got to go to window. All right, here's what I need to share. All right, let me show this. All right, this is the elections and ethics meeting scheduled. So did you know there's an elections and ethics committee?
I did. Yeah.
So can you explain to me why an election bill would be in the judiciary when it's not on the elections and ethics committee schedule?
No, that's a good question. I mean, that it's other than control the narrative of how it goes through.
So then I thought I might show one more thing before we talk about this just a little bit longer. Let me see if I can find it here. Oh my goodness, there's no way I would have dropped that.
Well, and I want to make a quick note.
Oh, here it
also,
is.
for anyone that doesn't know, when you run as a candidate, you get like a 80-page ethics how-to book that literally says everything you can and can't do, and it literally says in there that you can't have all the notary and all that stuff you talked about, Robert. It literally says in that
Yes,
campaign
that's correct.
packet.
That is correct. You're not left standing alone. You know, if you know how to read, hopefully if you're running for office, you know how to read. All of that is in there, and it's not a hard read either.
Yeah.
It's not a hard read. It's set to help you not make too many mistakes.
And so basically what we're saying is there's no excuse for not following the law.
Absolutely not.
That's what I'm just going to say it outright. Okay, so now I want to change to another tab. So give me one more second. All right, here's the tab that I want to share, the window I want to share with you. This was something I found to be just a smidge interesting. So if you don't know what you're looking at right now, I'll blow it up just a little bit more so you can see it better. This is Lisa Standridge's
hit that little 3-line up in your left side there, Jenny.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Okay, so can you see it better now?
Oh, yeah.
Should I make it bigger? How's that?
Yeah, you can make it one more.
One more? Okay. All right. So this is Lisa. You can see up at the top, it says Lisa Standridge, Lisa Standridge for Senate. This is her ethics commission filing. So she had almost $200,000 in campaign contributions in this. I mean, that's not a small amount. It is a Senate seat, but that's not a small amount.
No, it's not.
And there were a couple of things on here. This Conservative Action Fund, 117 Edith Lane, Tuttle. Lonnie Paxton is from Tuttle. This is a $5,000 contribution. Okay. And then if we go down further.
And that's the same Lonnie Paxton that's writing the bill, correct? To strike these things.
But that's the same Lonnie Paxton during our debate she said was a rhino, as well as leadership, and that she wouldn't support.
So I see it says State Highway 37. So Lonnie Paxton actually gave Lisa Standridge $3,000 himself. Okay. And now suddenly Lonnie Paxton is running a bill to remove the same problems that Lisa had in the election. Sorry, Senator Standridge. Oh, so who is it then? Rob or Lisa? Okay, so Senator Lisa Standridge had the same problems in the elections. Now Lonnie Paxton is running a bill to remove those from law. So I not exactly, I mean, to me, that's a pretty big deal. I mean, I think that's a big deal. That's just me.
It's no coincidence. It's not like just out of the blue, all this just happened to completely just collide. No possible way.
Steph gets it.
It's obvious they're directly connected, especially when you look at who legal counsel is for the Senate. It's the Standard's attorney. Okay, his law firm represented her through every bit of this.
Wow.
The needle has been threaded. It's all connected together.
So here was something, and this is another one I want to bring up, as a matter of fact. But the problem is, I do not have a subscription to the Oklahoman, so this isn't going to help us much. I fear, but I did notice that here it is. And unfortunately, this is the best I can do because, like I said, I just don't have the Oklahoman and it won't pull up. But when I went out to look, it actually, there was an Oklahoman article on 2/13. So this is just recent. 2025, former OK Senate Pro Tem Glenn Coffey takes advisor role at, and you said it was for the state Senate, correct?
Yes. Yes.
And Glenn Coffey was the Standridge's attorney.
You bet. His firm represented the Standards.
Who then also told your team that they would have them disbarred for filing a lawsuit.
Yeah, a member, from my understanding, a member of his team made the threat to a member of my team. I wasn't there. I just got it secondhand.
So Glenn Coffey was Senate Pro Tem. Yes. And when I thought Brian Bingman basically brought up Paul Ziriax, who is the president of the state election board, or the chair of the state election board right now. I thought it was Brian Bingman. And then our last Pro Tem, whose name is escaping me, somebody help me, Greg Treat, just kept him on. But is it your understanding that Glenn Coffey is the one who
if you go to Google and Google that, you'll get your answer.
Well, I don't use Google, but I'll go to okay, are you looking for it, Michael?
No, I was gonna look at something else real quick. I want to take a, which we probably don't need to do it now, but I want to go look at Lonnie Paxton's ethics reports. Just go through them all.
Well, it'll take me a minute to pull those up. So probably what I'll do is when I write up the story, when we're finished, with the thing today. Did he say his legal team member? Yes. Steph. Yes, that's what he said, actually. So I think that, so I think this is a very interesting thing. So Glenn Coffey appoints Paul Ziriax as the Secretary of the Senate, because don't forget, that's an important thing. People don't know this. Paul Ziriax has two functions. He's considered to be the Secretary of the Senate, but then that position is also the chair of the state election board. So then Glenn Coffey appointed Paul Ziriax to that position, and then Brian Bingman reappointed him, and then Greg Treat reappointed him, all as the Senate Pro Tem. So
I believe that is correct.
Yeah. So he's been around for numerous years. And now Glenn Coffey is the, and by the way, I've got a letter somewhere from Glenn Coffey to me threatening me over using the state chamber logo in one of our Common Core, in one of my Common Core pieces. So threatening me for using the state chamber logo from Glenn Coffey and Associates. I can pull it up. It's somewhere on my computer. So yeah. So where do we go from here?
We're not going to go away. Okay.
Thank you.
I do plan on running again. And the fact is, we just need to keep moving this in the right direction to where people of Oklahoma have had enough, and they stand up and they start talking to their legislator about fixing these wrongs. And in particularly, it's not that hard because we have some good laws. We have a situation where people have manipulated the system to not execute the law, and they're being able to arbitrarily decide who gets the law, who doesn't, and that has to change. Now, whether that means we pass some legislation that forces things. I know through the Oklahoma Water Resources Board about 15 years ago, we had a problem where district attorneys were not issuing penalties against violations. We lobbied and worked our guts out and got it pushed to the AG's office and made some mandatory requirements. And so there are things that can happen that we need to do, and we need to be exploring them and making sure that we clean up this election process. There's enough things that we can do right now, and we plan on being in the middle.
Well, and I don't know if you know this, but the judge finally ruled in my case, and
really?
he is not going to dismiss my lawsuit for termination, wrongful termination. So he is not going to dismiss that. And I'm very hopeful that when we begin discovery sometime, hopefully next month, that so much of the information that, because I've documented everything meticulously,
Right.
and I'm hoping that with as much information as we have out there, that it will become absolutely clear that my firing was a retribution for pushing back against the fact that they were not following the law in counting ballots.
That's good to know. That's good to know. So, and we just got to keep pushing. I'll tell you, when this happened, I've already spent close to $100,000 in legal fees to get this out.
Robert.
But let me ask you, who could have done that? Who could have done that? Your average candidate who loses because a bureaucrat does this, they're in debt. Almost every candidate I know that loses is scrambling because they can't pay all their campaign debt. And they're more worried about saving their house and their bacon on a loss. And I'm just fortunate in the way I'm built is it was wrong, and we need to fix it, and it's a fix. It's fixable, and so I'm willing to pay the bill. And my family and I, we've had this talk over and over again, and I'm like in the middle of the night, okay, am I doing this for me, or am I doing this for the right reasons? And every time we come back, this isn't about us. This is about getting this right for us, Oklahoma, not for the Keys family.
Well, and that's kind of the way I felt about my lawsuit. I mean, I could care less that I'm not on that board at this point in time. So it's not like it took any skin off of my teeth. But the point of the matter is that you can't be a board that's subject to state law and then you refuse to follow the law. I'm just sick of the state. And I don't know if it's just malfeasance where these people are just lazy and they don't want to. I mean, I can see how attrition happens and people are like, well, they forget to do something one time and then the next people who come in don't even know to do it because the last people forgot to do it. And it's just attrition of gained knowledge. I don't understand. I don't know if that's probably or possibly what it is. They don't even know that they're doing the wrong thing. But wouldn't you think that if you were the head of an agency who's been the head of an agency for as long as Paul Ziriax has, that they would know the law inside and out and know that you're not supposed to do the things that they were doing when I was sitting on the county election board? And that, I guess, is my point. I don't care about me, but on the other hand, either have a law or don't have a law. I don't care. Do what you want. But if you're going to have a law, follow the law.
You bet. You bet. You know,
Because you expect me to follow the law. If I get caught out here speeding, I'm getting a ticket. If I don't pay my taxes, they're going to haul me into jail and take my stuff away.
yeah. You make them mad enough, they're going to keep auditing you, trying to make sure you didn't.
That's very true.
But you know, during the middle of all this, we were having a family gathering around Thanksgiving, and one of the family members' girlfriend turned out she was a election board secretary in one of the rural communities, and so we're talking about this, and as I asked her what the policy was and what her training was, and I mean, it's nil. And just exactly what you described about ballot handling. When I gave her the Oklahoma statute, Title 26 about ballot harvesting, she had never seen that information. It did not come to her in any way of training. And you mean to tell me, you know, we go through this big deal, we're requiring notaries to get this certificate from the state of Oklahoma, go through this, and we don't even have a continuing education program for that. We don't make them recertify. We don't take these election board county level and make them go through a training and a policy of it. I mean, so therefore I say that this is all fixable. Why can't we pass bills through the House and Senate that require a training, that require a step by step of what election board has to do? Because you would think that within the election board they would create that into policy and promulgate it into law. This is what we need to do. But when that state agency fails to do their job, we as local citizens can advocate law to make them do that. And that's what has to happen with this grassroots movement here. You know, it's plain and simple that we are letting the bureaucrats or the power brokers of Oklahoma decide how elections and other things are taking place. And we can take control of that.
And I'd say we're letting bureaucrats do it. And here's the crazy thing. You know, we were trained as a county election official, if you want to call it that. I was trained. But the problem is the training, we got a book and we sat down, we went through, they just read through the book. But the problem is you only see what's in the book. You don't see the whole law. They just pick out parts of it to put in there. Exactly. They don't put the whole law in there.
That's what this young lady told me. When I start showing her things that pertain to my issues, she had no knowledge of that, because it was never in any of her type of training or books that she was to look for.
Well, and you know what that says to me, and this is just what it says to me. So when people are in power and they know the rules, but then they don't want the people that are underneath them to know the rules, there's a certain imbalance that happens there where the rest of the ignorant people who don't know the rules are subjugated to whatever the rule maker says that the rules are.
That's right.
That was my whole reason behind pushing my lawsuit as well. Because I'm like, you can't just say, well, this is the law, and then that's the way it is. I mean, you have to, the law is written a certain way. We need to follow the law the way it's written, or you do have the ability to do what Pro Tem Lonnie Paxton is doing and running a bill through that's going to change the law. I mean, you do have that option. I'm not a fan of Lonnie Paxton's bill at all. And I go back to what Stephanie said this morning, or Steph said this morning. Why would they change that? They can't change those parts of the law. And why would it be in Judiciary Committee, where the person who has received so much money from Lonnie Paxton, Senator Sandridge, is sitting on that that committee, and it's not going to elections and ethics when it's an election bill.
Yeah, it's they don't want to draw attention to it.
Too many questions here.
You've got too many questions going to be connected to it, and it's just a strategic maneuver. But for the life of me, I don't think our governor would ever sign that bill. Okay, I'd be surprised if it made it out of the House. What I suspect's going on is because the district attorney stepped down. We have a new district attorney sitting in that slot that was appointed as an interim that has to now run for an election. Okay, and so here you have this crime that the Senate is saying, hey, we're going to change the law to where that's not a crime. As a district attorney, are you going to take and try to prosecute that while there's a statute of limitations? I think it's just a dog and pony show to buy time. As it may pass the Senate, but I just couldn't fathom that getting past the governor's desk, honestly. Okay. And when you get over into the House, you got a bunch of people on the House side that have been done wrong, and they're going to jump up and down on that side. I just couldn't imagine it. And so,
well, I wish I had your, I wish I had your belief on any of that, since
there's a whole lot that can go wrong. But regardless on it, we have a group of people who recognize that they broke the law, and so they want to continue breaking the law. So they are going to try to attempt to change the law so they can break the law. Okay, I mean that's what it boils down to. The manipulation of the system.
I'm not sure how you get much different out of that. I mean, we're all conjecture, obviously, because we don't know for a fact. But I mean, if we can conjecture that, I mean, obviously it's a possibility. So, I guess oh, you did go before the Supreme Court. I forgot about that part. What happened at the Supreme Court?
The Supreme Court, what they did is exactly what we said to begin with. They pushed us back to wrong jurisdiction. This needs to be in the district attorney's office. I mean, and unfortunate for the average person, they think this is a win or lose deal. It was more of a direction of who should be doing this. That's why my frame of mind is, do they really think they're going to get this bill passed, or are they just trying to buy time and call the dogs off with this new district attorney? Okay, and so I have no idea where that's gonna land. And again, the object isn't to put two old ladies into prison. Never has been. Okay, that wouldn't go down well with me. Okay, but the fact is, the orchestrators of it, they need to be held accountable, and that's what we're looking at right there. Whoever's pulling those strings at the top, that's putting these people in exposure, is what needs to be fixed.
Well, let's back up even further. So if I have a question about your business and I just say, hey, Robert, here's a question. Do you sick an attorney on me? Do you tell me that I'm not going to answer that question? Or do you just go, well, here you go, Jenny. Well, I might not be able to tell you all of it because my attorneys are involved, but here's what's going on. I mean, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, you're pretty likely going to say, well, I can't talk about this maybe, but here's what's going on that I can talk about. So you go to the election board and you basically say, okay, this is a problem. And I think this is an issue right here. And this isn't following the law. And, we need to look at this. Well, I'm going to sue you. That's their response.
No, that's exactly what happened. I tell you, my attorney, young guy, was so upset that first day because of that. And I mean, he was worried. the exact dialogue, what exactly happened, I have no idea. But that's why it was just a fortunate deal because he had postponed a trip with his son to California to Disneyland and to be there in court that day. And so my hat's off to this guy, and he walks in and they start attacking him from a different angle, it threatening his livelihood. I mean, that just added more. This has to stop. This is not appropriate activity. I disagree with how the election came about. I disagree with these things, but that does not mean that we go on full frontal attack on people, threatening their livelihood and things like that. That doesn't work with me.
When I first started asking questions about what was going on, and I was reading the law and going, okay, we're not doing this. I'm not kidding you. Even as a government cynic, I kind of expected the people at the election board to go, oh, really? Oh, shoot. Well, let's go back and look at that. Well, let me work with you about that and we'll see if we can do that. Nope. Never got that. I got screamed at. I got yelled at. I told that I didn't, this and that and the other thing. But it was not ever we'd really like to work with you kind of a thing.
Yeah, you're a troublemaker when you point out problems,
And that should never be the way it is with government. I mean, even if I was wrong on the law and they said, well, Jenny, here's how you read the law. It's the blah, blah, blah. And this is, whatever. That's something, but that wasn't even what happened. It's more like, and there's a smackdown there. So I think anytime when you're dealing with government, which is my tax dollars, and it's supposed to protect me, and suddenly because don't forget, when they fired me, they turned me over to the DA and the AG's in office for me to be investigated.
Right.
I mean, it would have been a short investigation. What are you going to find? There's not even a speeding ticket on there. I mean, good luck finding something. I mean,
did get some speeding tickets on me, but
oh well, I haven't gotten any, so or not recently, not that are actually on there. I'm not going to say I've never gotten a speeding ticket, but you know what I mean. Not on there recently. So I mean, I'm saying, I guess the point is, what a move to say, well, not only do we not agree with your complaints, we're going to have you investigated. Right. That's using the arm of the government as a bully weapon, as a weapon. That's not how we.
You bet. You bet.
That's not how we do things in government. And yet this is the way that government is going in a red state, with a red state governor, with a majority of the House and Senate as Republicans. This is how this state is going.
This is red on red. In this case, this was a red on red. Okay. And we've been up in arms because it's been blue on red so long. We have those who are really blue that are just wearing red, and they're playing the same game.
That's 100%.
Yeah.
It would be bad enough if they were only tyrannical, but we're literally paying for this with our tax dollars, and that's exactly right. I'm paying to get abused by the system. You're paying to get abused by the system.
Yeah.
How is that not communism?
Yeah, some of us pay more than others to get the same abuse.
There you go.
Yeah.
So what's the next step from here, Robert? I mean, do you have a next step? Can you go further with what's the next step?
Well, let's just put it this way. It's not over. We're not going. Okay. We're working on things. And at the end of the day, I do plan on being part of making some changes out there. There's some system things. There's enough people just within this podcast group that we have, and people that I know throughout the state of Oklahoma. One of the fortunate things about being in my business and in the water world, in the gas station, there's not a water well contractor, pump installer in the state of Oklahoma or voting district that doesn't know what I stand for. I've been fighting, I've been fighting for water rights and things like that. We pull that statewide team together, and we can make some movement. And we're not going away. You know, we our focus is right now. Let's clean this mess up. I'm part of my business. I'm a remediation contractor. Okay, we do millions of dollars a year worth of cleanup, and so the state election system needs a remediation program.
At
And
100%.
we're going to work with the top leaders in the state and straight, honest people, and we're gonna work to clean that up.
Well, and I'm very glad to hear you say that, because I'm committed to seeing my lawsuit, through as well. But I will say this. I think it's really kind of a disgusting day when you and I have to go out and find attorneys that, in my case, I have to, there are people that are helping me afford my attorney. And I have to go out and beg people to help me file a lawsuit. I mean, that's really, that's pathetic. I mean, that's a pathetic day when the state has so much power that you have to sue you. So you sue using your money, but then they take their money from you to then turn around and fight you back. It's so wrong all the way around. I just don't see how we're not. I read an article the other day, and I would hope people would go out and read it, because it was a great little article. And it was in the Federalist about a woman who had come to America from Czechoslovakia. And she talked about when she was living in Czechoslovakia, because it's a communist country. They would, you had to be very underground with everything. They would read pamphlets and they would listen to, Radio Free America and all of this kind of stuff, but they could never talk about it or anything because they were going to get in trouble. Well, she moved to America and they revered America, right? And she moves to America, and unfortunately, for some reason, she moves to Washington State. That probably didn't help a whole lot, but she moved to Washington State, and she saw Chaz. She saw all of the Antifa stuff. She went through all of the COVID pandemic. She went through all of that. And she said she was standing in her kitchen and she was talking to her son, who apparently for some reason goes to a Washington public school. And they were talking about, I'm not kidding, this is what she says in her article, about all of the furries and the transgender kids in his classroom. And they're talking about it. And she says, well, she turns around to her son and she says, well, you probably should not be saying that at school. And she said, suddenly the angels started singing and her mind opened up and she went, I just did the same thing to my son in my kitchen in America that I had to do with my family in Czechoslovakia.
Exactly.
That is huge. Or as Jay likes to do, huge. It's huge.
Yeah.
Well, I sure do appreciate you so much, Mr. Keys. You're just a light in the wilderness, and I just so much appreciate you and your standard of ethics and your desire to do the right thing. And so thank you. And thank you for coming on and updating us about all of this stuff. Will you keep doing that?
Yeah, I will. Let me close with my part. Okay?
Sure.
And I say this almost everywhere. So if you've heard me say this, I apologize, but I think it's important. When we look at Norman and we look at Senate District 15, we look at, there's so much blue in this district. Okay. Yeah. But I knocked thousands of doors for a year and a half. Okay. I was everywhere. And I am totally impressed with Senate District 15, the number of people that told me at the doorstep that they are praying for God to bring good leaders. The number of people who would not let me leave their doorstep without them offering a prayer on me or asking me to offer a prayer on them. It was January 20th, a year ago. It was like 18 degrees. My wife and I and two young people were out knocking doors. I was on the other side of the street from my wife with a young lady from church, and we knocked on this door, and this middle-aged woman opened the door, freezing cold, and she said, "I'll take your information and get back with you." We stepped away out into the driveway, and that lady, I heard her voice saying, "Hey, sir." I turned around. She came out of her house without a jacket on and in stocking feet, and it was in the teens. And she said, "Can I offer a prayer?" And she put her hand on my shoulder and gave one of the most incredible prayers. And I'm going to tell you, that's Senate District 15. Okay. People are wanting this good change. They're wanting the light of Christ to lead Oklahoma. And we've got to do that. There have been many good people who run for office that got sucked into the vacuum, got in the deal. I'm not judging anybody, but I'm saying as we stand up and we take them on the chin, we will be a light for good. And that's what this is about. Because let's all be a light for good. I can't do it alone. You can't do it alone. But you know what it's like to lay in bed at night after being kicked around and kicked to the curb. That's got to stop. And that's what I'm standing up for.
Oh, that made me misty. I got a little misty over that. You're right. You're right. You're 100% right. That was lovely. Thank you so much, Robert, for offering that up. And I think that's an excellent way to close out this segment, because you're right. The only way we're going to get there is through the light of Christ. He's the only one that'll give us the peace and the truth to get through it. So 100%.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, sir. We sure do appreciate you, and we will be in contact with you as you move forward. And when anything else happens, let us know.
Yeah. Well, and real quick, Robert, are you taking any donations? You got a website for people to help you or anything?
No,
or you just
no.
do it? You're just going to do it yourself, 100%.
We're not going to be any burden on anybody. Okay. But we want all the help we can. Okay. And so, and when I say help, let's use social media. Let's knock on doors. Let's go up to the Capitol and let's move the needle where it counts. Money's not the issue at this point in the game. Okay.
Amen. All right. Thank you, Robert. We appreciate you so much. Have a blessed day.
Bye-bye.
All right. Bye. And also at this point, we should say, stay warm.
Yeah. Well, just listening to Robert and just watching his mannerisms and his resolve. That's just to me, that's just when I think of like a classic Oklahoma, Texas kind of cowboy, the real deal. That's Robert. He's just the real deal, heart of gold, perfect gentleman. That's, you just don't get any better than that guy.
No, I just don't. I don't think so. He's just genuine to the core. And it's kind of sad in one respect, because we have so many people that this happens to who are just totally disenfranchised by the system, and who either don't have the money to fight the crap, that goes on. They don't have the money to fight it. They don't have the time. They're working. They're trying to do. Robert and I both are lucky because I have the time and I will make the time to fight this fight. And I'm lucky because I have so many friends who are willing to help me, make this happen, because they believe in the fight. They, look, if I say, hey, I'm looking at the law and this doesn't say this, and I don't get any help, then to me, I'm perceiving there's a problem with you. It's not a problem with me. It's a problem with you. So, because government and the people should work together. We're the people. The whole government is by us, for us, and of us. And this whole elitist kind of it's an elitist trend that we have, which is, I'm a bureaucrat. I've been here. I know better than you little people. You're just little people. And I've been here for forever. I know the system. I know all the people, I'm better than you. And that's exactly what it is. I'm tired of it. I'm not just tired of it. I'm sick to death of it. I don't want to fight you. I don't want to fight you. But if you're going to make me fight you, I'll sure fight you.
It kind of reminded me. Did you ever watch Shooter with Mark Wahlberg, the movie from several years ago, where he was special forces? He retired. They set him up for an assassination, basically. And in the end, he proved that, it wasn't him. But in the end, he's going after the guys that set him up. And one was, like the local senator or whoever. And anyway, he's getting ready to, attack him. And he's like, don't you know who I am? I'm a United States Senator. That's just like when you said that, that's like just flashed in my head. That's what these people literally think, like they're completely untouchable.
And it's funny that you just said that too, because we see so many movies where the bureaucrats, where the government officials are the bad guys. And yet here in Oklahoma, it can't be. We're the Bible Belt. We're like, we're all Republicans. We have 77 counties voted for Trump. I mean, the cognitive dissonance that we have in this state is unfreaking believable. I mean, it's just... Yeah, it's bizarre. I mean, and then you can say that this kind of thing is happening, and then people will get on you about it. They'll be like, well, how dare you come out and talk about those people? They're nice people.
Just take the cognitive dissonance with the school books themselves. They're so pornographic. They're so terrible. You go and you knock on the door, and the person's literally like, that's not in my school. That's not happening here. There's none of that happening here. There's no sexualizing these kids here. I mean, literally to my face, I knock on a door in a campaign. I show them the book. I read them a passage. I show them all the words. That's not happening here. I mean, literally.
I think you and I are on the same page about the fact that more people are waking up, right?
Yeah, I would agree 100%. 100%.
Yeah, I do believe there are a lot more people that are getting it and a lot more people that are waking up. But I think the biggest problem that we have is that the people who are waking up don't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
Right.
I agree.
Yeah. So they wake up and they're like, this sucks. I don't know what to do about it. So they just get mad. Uh-oh. And then Lisa says, Jenny, do not get me started on that. Can't happen in Oklahoma. Because let's not forget, Lisa is in California, a Cali transplant. And she knows, she's been there, done that, and very well knows.
Well, and I'll tell you, Edmond was a pretty good recipient of a lot of California families that were leading, they're like, we're going to Oklahoma because that's as red as it gets. They literally come into Edmond, they're seeing the same things. And that's what, a lot of them helped me out in my campaign. Not just financially, but like knocked doors, did work. And they're like, we can't allow this. We literally watched this happen over the last 20 years here with our older kids. We can't let this happen here.
Yeah.
It's pretty eye-opening.
Yeah. Honestly, that article that I told you guys about from the Federalist, I can't think of it was how J.D. Vance's response to Martha Raddatz. Remember when that was the best? Did you see that where J.D. Vance had the interview with Martha Raddatz, and he was talking about the Venezuelan gangs taking over the Colorado apartment buildings, and Martha Raddatz was starting to push back and go, well, that's just a few units, and they don't really know anything about this. And J.D. Vance goes, Martha, do you hear yourself?
Yeah.
And I remember, because I didn't see the actual interview. I saw the replay, and I literally almost did a spit take. I laughed so hard because I was like, that's what we should all be saying. People, are you hearing yourself? Yeah. It's coming out of your mouth, but are you actually hearing what you're saying? That's what I really want to know, because I don't think it comes in and then they think to themselves, well, but I've met that person. They're a really nice person. Or I voted for Governor Stitt, or, I voted for this person. And I like what they're saying. And you're like, but it's not about what they're saying. It's about what they're doing. Yeah. And we don't seem to ever be able to process past what they're saying to the what are they doing part.
And who are they doing it for? Why are they doing it? There's 5 other questions within what they're doing, that that has a point there. And speaking of that, I got Lonnie's just his last ethics report.
Okay.
So I want to just there's nothing ominous. There's nothing like terrible, but I just want to run through a couple things here because this is the system. This is literally the system at work. This is a good example here. So this was just his last report, through December 31st of 24. Okay. And he had, $170,000 carryover. He brought in another $17,250. So in that, and then he expended, $55,500. So what I wanted to just show real quick is you come down here. Here's the contributors. Here's DC, Dallas, DC, Kansas City, Houston, DC,
Coke,
Indianapolis. These are all PACs in one way or another. You've got Little Rock. Here's another DC. So
Union Pacific.
Yeah. So all the money just coming in from PACs, nothing local, no local support, no people. And then you just run through all the expenditures. And it's all just going back out to other candidates, candidate contributions across the board. Here's, all these candidates. And then you've got, he's repaying himself for some mileage. And then he's got, some, there's some more mileage. There's donated to Kindle. That's kind of interesting.
Yeah, quite a bit.
There's the 3,000. There's the 3,000 to Lisa. And then, as we keep going down here, you've got memberships, hotels, lunch, caucus retreat, supplies, alcohol, it's
Chamber of Commerce, Tuttle Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah. It's just like, what the heck? What the heck?
Well, and I think, but that's kind of what we've shown over the course of this podcast, when we look at the people's ethics reports and what they're actually getting and where it's coming from, it's generally not the little people, it's the PACs. And in the ethics, a group of us put together some changes we felt like need to be made to the ethics rules that would kind of stop the dark money thing. And one of the things that we wanted to put into the ethics rules to change the rules was to prevent legislators from donating to other legislators, because it's a, I won't say the word, but it's a circle.
Yeah.
And again, any circle you can't get into. And squares, there are places where you might be able to get in on the corners, right? But where do you get in on a circle? Where do you get in on a sphere? And so the more this circle tightens in, the more the people on the outside stay on the outside. And I've never liked the idea of candidates donating to, or legislators donating to candidates, because there's always that perception, even if it's not true, because I've had so many people tell me, but that's not true. I didn't even know they donated to me. I don't look at my ethics reports. And I'm like, why would you not want to know who donated to you? I would want to know. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't want somebody walking into my office going, well, I donated to you. And I'm like, well, first of all, I don't really care. That was your choice. I didn't make you do anything.
Yeah.
So that was your choice. And number two, I don't respond to that.
Yeah. Well, and that's where we've talked, with Carmen on all that dark money stuff. At the very least, you should only allow a percentage of those contributions to come from outside of your district.
Yes.
In one way or another. That would solve this immediately.
It would solve 100% of the problem. And I think it would solve 100% of the problem, because if you can't, except for, what would happen, because they always have to figure out ways around things, then they would put something inside the district. They would create a foundation inside the district that they could dump money into and say, oh, well, she got this from inside her district. So they'll come up with they'll monkey with the rules. These people, they'll do whatever they need to do to be able to come out on top. It's just the way that so many of these people function. But I do think it would solve a lot of the problems if you just said, look, if you can't get elected by the people in your district, you don't need to be elected.
Yep.
Then you need to move on and do something else. Walmart greeters are, dime a dozen.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't, it's, that was pretty
That's how
snarky, but
these, that's how these corporations and these, dark money people stay in control in one way or another, because they're able to just keep funneling it in.
that's,
Every quarter, here comes more money.
that's exactly it. Exactly it. Well, do you have anything more before we get off of here? Because it's Valentine's Day. You need to, maybe you can take Lauren to lunch.
I will. I'll have nice dinner for Lauren, flowers. I should show you a text. I literally sent her a text from the other day. I was at the store. I saw this piece of jewelry that I liked. I took a picture of it and I'm like, hey, how about I get this for you? And she's like, no, I don't need that. Hey, Lauren, let me tell you something about Lauren. Lauren's the best wife. She literally has so much buyer's remorse. I let Lauren buy whatever she wants. I literally do. I'm not kidding. She can buy whatever purse, whatever shoes, whatever jacket, whatever she wants, because I know literally within a day or two, she's going to be like, oh, well, I don't really need that. I'm just going to take it back. I'm like, are you sure? Are you sure you want to take it back? I mean, you can get that. She's like, oh, she's the best. I mean, all her friends, it's like the biggest running joke ever.
It is funny. And I just don't, I can't buy anything because I never, it's just me and money are not a good, so I'm just like, don't buy anything. Just stop. Buy food. You can buy food.
There we go.
So I just do. But then the only problem is you have a farm and, like yesterday, oh my goodness, had an emergency and had to put a sheep down, and then lost a lamb last night. And I have got a lamb in the hospital, and it's a good thing I don't buy anything because all of my money goes to feed and the vet. So yikes. I know. It's like I was thinking to myself, and this always happens. I was thinking to myself, oh my gosh, this year we might actually, break even. I wasn't even going to say come out ahead, but I was going to go, hey, we might even, might break even. And then it was like, boom.
You're like living like mini Yellowstone in real life.
Kind of.
You're over there. The land, the animals, preservation. We don't make any money. Dang government. Encroachment.
Yeah, that's pretty much
politicians. That's pretty funny.
That's pretty much it. So so now I'm going to have to go pick up an orphaned lamb from the vet, who is going to be the most expensive lamb on the face of the planet, I feel certain, because when he went in, he was not only dehydrated, but he was hypothermic as well. So I'm sure he'll present me with a lovely bill that I won't be able to make back on getting rid of him. So,
yeah,
it is what it is, but happy Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it's always good to talk to you and have you on. Next week, we have on our friend Mary from Visit. And, Mary and I did a little live at 1:00 on Wednesday about the school board debacle. And there's actually, and there's a lot more to it. Didn't find out that it is over an agenda item that was on the January board meeting, which was about counting the number of illegal aliens in schools. And I guess, you know what? I'm going to do more on that, and we'll probably do more on that together. But I think this is a really great example of how far away we are from a red state. I'll just give you a quick breakdown. So in January, at the January meeting there, and I'm just getting this from eyewitnesses because I haven't gone to look at it, but I will pull it down and pull out the video. A lady from Oklahoma City Public Schools came and she was talking to the board, and she said, well, here's the problem that I have. We've counted it up, and we have kids in our system who speak over 71 languages.
Wow.
So I'm just curious, for all those people who are outraged over this, if you've never been in a classroom, and I've been in a classroom, and I know what classroom management is, and I know all of these things. If you want to put somebody who speaks, let's say Spanish, okay? Because we're not that far from Mexico. Let's say Spanish. Well, a lot of people speak Spanish. That's not that difficult. It's Ethiopian. It's the 7,000 languages that Africa. I mean, my kids were from Zambia. And one time I was talking to one of their sisters who basically said, sometimes in our own, where we lived, in their own little state, county, whatever area, sometimes where they lived, the people spoke upwards of 17 to 20 different dialects. So even in their own area, they had trouble conversing with the people around them. Think on that just a second. So we have these people over here who speak those kinds of dialogues and speak other forms of things. I mean, this isn't about Mexico. This isn't about Spanish. This isn't about any of that. It's about the fact that there are thousands of kids in the system who don't even speak. In some cases, they can't even read and write in their own language.
Yeah.
And yet we're supposed to teach them. These classroom teachers are supposed to teach them. And here's the other point to that. And you know this as well as I do. Because of George Bush and his Every Student Succeeds Act, if the school gets federal funds, and that's, I think, 100% of all schools, I may be wrong. I'm happy to say it when I am, but I think it's 100% of schools. When you get federal money, you have to, your district, 95% of the kids in the district have to take the standardized tests. Okay. So how is a kid who speaks some dialect from Ethiopia going to be able to understand a test because he doesn't have a teacher who can teach him in his own language? Do you see where I'm going with this?
No.
Do you see how outrageous all the political drama is now? There should be teachers up in arms going, are you kidding me? Why are you doing this to me? Why would you even? I mean, all they were trying to do was to figure out where these kids come from, where they are, so that at least they can find a way to teach them. It wasn't anything about calling ICE on them or anything else. There is such a pushback in this state, and it comes from the governor himself. I've already written an article about that. He basically said it himself. What did he say at his press conference the other day about kids? It's all about protecting kids. Well, what about protecting the other kids that are in the classroom, Governor Stitt? Do you care about those kids? So I'm just curious, because do you know how disruptive it is to have a kid who can't speak, read, or write in English in a classroom with 25 other kids, and you're trying to teach this kid that you can't even really reach, but he's in the classroom with a bunch of other kids. Now he's disruptive because he doesn't even know what to do, and he's disrupting the 20 other kids in classroom. Well, so Governor Stitt, I'm just curious then. So your intent is to make it sure that the majority of kids don't learn.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, Lisa has a good comment, and I was just going to kind of make along those same lines. I'm sure that taking that federal money requires that these kids be put into regular classrooms and not be separated out into where they're grouped together so they can have some communication. They can actually make some progress. You know, they're specifically put into the classroom with everybody else, and it just completely destroys, you know, the actual progress, the academic and scholarship within the classroom, in my opinion. And I've had teachers tell me that. I mean, but they get micromanaged from the top because the district wants that money. They don't care what the teachers are going through. They want that money because of, you know, there's a lot of money that comes with those deals.
Yes, and I think we'll find out when the TPS audit is finally released. I think we'll find out a lot about what administrators are doing with these funds that we don't know that they're doing. And I think that's going to be a great jump off point to probably do another whole 2-hour show on how ridiculous public schools have gotten and why the political drama surrounding number or just counting kids in classrooms to try to figure out how to better educate them, how the political drama surrounding that doesn't have anything to do with the overall broader picture of the problems that we're having.
Yeah.
It just, that whole thing, I'm never not going to be mad about it because it's ridiculous. And I'm never not going to be mad about the fact that so many people are going, yes, you put Ryan Walters in his place. That doesn't have anything to do with that. And for those of you who are saying that, nope, no, you're not right there. That's not what's going on. And I suggest that you probably just do a little bit of extra study on that and see if you can't come to a different conclusion, because it doesn't even have anything to do. Ryan Walters may have put the agenda item on there, but it didn't have to do with, well, I guess you could say, now they're going to fight over it because I don't know. The whole thing is so ridiculous, and it's not helping kids. I mean, it's creating a big mess, and it's, playing politics, but it's not helping kids. Yeah. And I got to go back to this one from Disgruntled Old Man because it made me laugh. The only reason to have an elite is they can handle a lawsuit when one of us simpletons would be screwed right there and can't afford it.
Yeah.
Yep. Disgruntled Old Man. That's an absolute fact. And I think that's the way they want it run. So back to what I was saying before I went on the tangent. On Wednesday, the 19th, we're going to have Mary on with visit. And she's had, if you haven't seen the V1SUT Substack for the week, she's got 2 new stories up about some really awful things that are happening. I mean, unfortunately, that's
another brooming incident.
Yeah. I mean, parents, please find a way to pull your kids out of public school. This isn't the place for them right now. On Friday, we're going to be talking to Julianne Romanello, and she's going to talk about the education through labor pipeline. That's what I'm going to call it, because people don't seem to understand. They're all like, yeah, let's get rid of the Federal Department of Education. I'm super happy about that. But if we're just going to pump all the stuff into the Department of Labor, and now we're just going to educate our kids to be little widgets for jobs, I'm not okay with that.
I call them automatons, Jenny. They're automatons.
And, we've talked about this on the show before. We have so many people that are young now that have no idea. I mean, we have a big gap in our age, but even you still hadn't grown up in the era that a lot of these kids have grown up in now.
Oh, no.
And it's so, we had, when we were kids, my gosh, I've said this before, I remember sweating over a piece of paper, because we didn't have air conditioning. I mean, we didn't have all these things in schools, this take care of this thing and disability. And we didn't have all of that stuff. All of that was taken care of outside of the school by parents. But because we've shoved that all into school, now parents expect it, and they expect it to be funded, and they expect their children to be taken care of by the government, by me as a taxpayer. And it's completely wrong, but they don't understand that it's completely wrong because they've never seen anything different. That's just how they expect it to be. And at this point, they expect it to be that way.
Well, and not just parents, in that scenario, but you rewind and the church was much more active socially in the community.
Correct.
I mean, just thinking back to my childhood, that's who, and that was just in the 80s, in 90s, early 90s. And, that's where most of that stuff happened, was there, not in the school.
Yeah.
But ultimately that's what the government wants. They want to be dad. They want to break up the family because they want to be the sole provider. They want to be the decision maker. They want to be it's an entire one payer system across the board. They're the educator. They're the provider. They give you insurance. They do. That's what they want. They want to completely disempower every single person if they can. Because
that's what John Dewey said.
Yeah. It's like I said multiple times on this podcast. They don't want kids that are educated because now they're competition to the government, because those kids will create the businesses and solve the problems that the government wants to control.
You're 100%. And the sad thing is, remember Reagan said, freedom is only one generation away from being extinct.
Oh yeah.
I mean, and that's what we're seeing right now. We're seeing that these upcoming generations, they don't care about freedom. They would just rather be suck off the teat of the government and have the government provide everything for them. And I think the most stark realization to that was this pushback against Dusty Deaver's bill, where he was just trying to get out some of the services. He was trying to get them out of public schools and back out to other entities like they should be, so that they're not in school. Because I got to tell you, you're a kid in school now, you're not in math because you have this, you're not in this because you're not in science because you have to go to this, you got to go to counseling, or you have to go to speech, or you have to go to this, or you have to go to that. If you're going to do school and I'm going to pay for it as a taxpayer, you better be in school to learn reading and writing and math and science and history, not social studies, but history. You better be in school to do that. And then whatever you can do, whatever you have to do needs to be done on the outside after that, but not in a school.
Yeah. Well, and on top of that, Jenny, and we'll wouldn't talk about Lisa's comment here in a second, but on top of that, these kids have no work ethic like we did in the past. I mean, I only have what I have because my dad pounded into me, you work harder. If you want to get ahead, you have to work harder, period. You have to do the things other people don't want to do to get ahead. And that's how I've always been. But you see these kids now, like, I get so upset, like when my son or daughter, somebody needs, because I've still got kids, from college, 20 years old down to 11 years old. So like when I see my son trying to, or my daughter trying to just get a book, an Audible book, rather than actually read the book. I mean, that's just being lazy. And there's so many avenues for these kids now to not use their time constructively in any capacity, because they can just shortcut and cheat everything and just go watch a YouTube video with a summary over whatever their assignment is. I mean, I hate the fact that we've got that. We're so complacent with entertainment, and Lisa's right. I mean, another thing is just how everybody is just a complete victim now. I mean, I always took responsibility for everything. If I did something wrong, it's my fault. If something happened to me, it's my fault, and now it's like the complete opposite. You just hear it in every one of these conversations with all these kids. There's no responsibility there. Everything is just, they did this, they said this have, everything is happening to them. It's just victim mentality, but that's where the government wins, because they want victims.
Well, and when you become dependent on government, you become a victim. You make yourself a victim.
Yeah.
Because then you can't, whatever, you're subject to the whim of government. Then at that point in time, I'm not sure what Lisa said. So she said, so many parents are upset. How's my child supposed to get his 7 forms of therapy now? Yeah, that's what I was reading on Facebook. Therapies have been funding through schools, despite neither of my kids ever setting foot inside of a classroom. And that's another thing that we should probably talk about on another show. A lot of these therapies are being instituted in school because federal money is paying for them.
Yeah.
And schools, they want all the money that they can get. They're into every thin dime that they can possibly, scrape over into their pile. It's like poker to them. Oh, look, federal money pile, I mean, and so much of this stuff is being given for this therapy or that therapy or this disability or that, and so they're happy to have all that money in schools. But again, we're getting kids therapized and not educated.
Yeah. Well, and it's because there's no incentive for scholastics or academic achievement anymore. All the incentives are all these social programs. That's where all the money is. That's where all the incentives are. And you have to get a strong school board that understands that to turn things around, at least in this state. Yeah,
no, that's absolutely factual. And we still have parents who aren't interested in running for school board or can't, like Mary has told us so many times, in those small towns, they just beat you up if you come against the people who run the schools, because they've been there for generations and they're connected to this person and that person. And if they stand up in these small schools and say that's not okay, they'll just get bullied.
Yeah.
bullied. Lisa said, when one of my parents needed vision, when one of my kids needed vision therapy for an actual medical issue, guess who paid for it? We did, her parents. Yeah, but then you also paid for somebody else's vision therapy who didn't want to go out and do it on their own. So just saying. Well, so I think we've covered everything on, and because I'm afraid to go on because we're already at a minute 50 or an hour 50. So I'm afraid to go on.
Thank God for Robert Keyes and his ethics and his perseverance in this, because he could blow a lot of this wide open, Jenny. I mean, he could be the key to really exposing how bad, how inside these election deals actually are.
Well, and how deeply entrenched in non-transparency our government is, while saying, "Oh, we're so transparent. Look, we're doing this for transparency." But they're not transparent. Like Robert said, all of the stuff that happened to him had to be done outside of a court, outside of prying eyes, outside of some, because then they can just go, "Oh, well, that didn't happen."
Yeah.
Which is what they did.
Look at that whole first hearing where nothing was allowed to be recorded. There was, they had to make a deal just to get to the next level. He had to concede just to get to the next level to actually try to get something on record.
Yep. I mean, and then look what they did to me. It was all inside executive session. They couldn't do that out in the public. They had to do all of that inside executive session. So how transparent is that?
God. Wow.
And of course, in the House now, we have extra committees to make it more transparent. The other day, I was following that stupid cell phone bill. People, if you don't understand how bad it is, number one, local control. And that's what I hate about legislators. They'll use the phrase local control when they want to. But it's local control, Jenny. We're all for local control. But then you say, well, this is stupid. Make it local control. You had Rob Miller up there talking about he did it himself in Jinx, and yet we have to have a bill to make the schools create a policy. But then it doesn't tell you that you're going to make the schools follow that policy. It's not going, I mean, anybody can. It's the most ridiculous legislation on the face of the planet. And you actually had, and I will name you people who voted on that ridiculous bill. I'll have an update to that. Because it's ridiculous. You can't be a small government person and then go, bell the bell, no sell. Yay. It's frankly ridiculous. And if you're a Republican and you vote for that, you're not a Republican. That's just the way it is.
Yeah.
Sorry. We're small government people. So I guess that outs the ones that are wearing our Democrats with Republican coats on. I don't know. Okay. See it. We did it. And I kept going. Okay. Happy Valentine's Day. I hope you have a great weekend. And I hope everybody has a great weekend. I hope everybody has a happy Valentine's Day. And may all your kids bring you Valentines. How about that one? All your kids bring you Valentines. I gave all my kids Valentines because I just love them. All right. Well, we will see you again on Wednesday with Mary with V1SUT, and again on Friday with Julianne Romanello. And thank you for being with us today. We truly appreciate it. And we would just really appreciate it if you would like, share, and get this information out so that people know what's actually going on. So thank you so much for being with us, and we'll see you again on Wednesday. Bye-bye.
Bye.